After Saw 3, things were looking pretty good for the Saw franchise. That was until Saw 4. Let's talk about it. Let's go. I gotta be honest with you folks, as every uninspired second of this clunky cringe factory slog of a film crawled on, I too felt like I was one of Jigsaw's poor subjects, suffering slowly through one of his deliberately cruel, murderous torture traps, devised only to exaggerate all of my pain and fear. And as the life drained from my bloodshot, confused, and tired eyes, I only had one single question to ask myself, and that question was, why? Every piece of this rusty clunker from snout to ass was crusty, from the casting, writing, acting, boring traps down to the shitty looking CGI blood that oozed from one disappointing trap to the next. The corny lines these actors barfed out were almost as bad as the dog shit wig that sat on top of budget bizarro world Jason Lee's head, like some sort of bad acting crown awarded to him, which he definitely deserved some sort of accolade for. This bummer of a film took a nice chunky Cleveland steamer on the chest of everything that previous films had set up, and Leigh Whannell is glad he's the invisible man on this writing team, because no amount of Jigsaw's impeccable planning could have prepared him for this abysmal stinker that is Saw 4. The laughable, forgettable, and ultimately unforgivable entry that inspires little hope that the franchise could ever redeem itself from the proverbial stinkhole it sunk itself deep in. That, my friends, was my douchey Rotten Tomatoes film critic impersonation. Give me a round of applause, will you? No? Now, guys, I'm just kidding. I'm just poking a little fun at Saw 4. I'm just kidding. If this is your favorite installment, no hate. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But Saw 4 sucked. Guys, welcome back. Justin here, back again for another episode in my Saw review series. I've reviewed Saw 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to link those down below. It's been quite a journey so far. And guys, in all seriousness, I'm just joking around. Please do not take these reviews too seriously, or any film criticism too seriously for that matter. We're all just having conversations. Everybody has different tastes. Saw 4 was not my cup of tea, and we will get into all that. But if Saw 4 does happen to be one of your favorite movies, if it's your favorite in the series, let's just have a conversation about it. I'm not throwing any hate towards anybody, but I am going to shred this movie. I do have some positive things to say about it, and I'll start off with that. I'll lead with the positive. How about that? So for Saw 1 through 3, to kind of boil down my opinions, I gave them all a rating. I went in depth into every Saw movie so far. Saw 3 was my favorite. I loved everything they did with Saw 3, especially the character stuff. I thought the character development was really good. The end of the movie had a really nice climax, and honestly, I was really looking forward to Saw 4. I was a little curious as to how they were going to continue it after the death of Jigsaw and Amanda. In fact, I had predictions that maybe they weren't even dead, but we'll get into that. Now, in each of my reviews, I make predictions about what might happen in the next movie, so let's travel back in time to my Saw 3 review and see if any of my predictions for Saw 4 came true. Detective Matthews is still alive out there somewhere. We know something's eventually going to happen with him, or they have an opportunity to push the story forward with his character. Jeff's, our grieving father, his daughter, is somewhere locked up. Maybe Detective Matthews finds out about this daughter and he attempts to try to find this poor girl that's locked up somewhere. I don't know. That could be a possible storyline. Another big thing is maybe Jigsaw isn't dead. Maybe Amanda isn't dead, okay? They can always bring back people in movies somehow, some way. I know they showed them. It looks like they're dead. The fucking blood squirting out of Jigsaw's neck. So maybe they'll pick up, I don't know, right from this moment. So I guess to summarize my predictions, maybe Jigsaw's still alive. Maybe Amanda's still alive. Maybe there's a little piece to the puzzle, another person involved that they're going to bring in. I just don't know. I guess we'll see what happens in Saw 4. Okay, so Jigsaw's definitely dead. I was wrong with that prediction, that's for sure. From the opening moments, it is in fact confirmed that Jigsaw is hella dead as they remove his brain, and as Jigsaw Me Too'd me at the beginning of the movie by whipping his dong out in front of everybody. What was that all about, huh? I got Me Too'd by Jigsaw. My other prediction, I think I mentioned that Amanda possibly wasn't dead. I think I'm still in denial about that a little bit. They didn't confirm her death like they did with Jigsaw. And the way they're doing these movies now, if they don't show you something, or if something is ambiguous or not shown, there's always some possibility they're going to bring it back. Maybe Amanda survived that gunshot. I don't know. So Jigsaw's definitely dead, that's for sure. Amanda's up in the air. I'm gonna hold out hope. If I'm being an idiot, I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments. I'm still gonna be in denial about it, okay? Maybe I'm just being optimistic, all right? Now, as far as Eric Matthews, we did get a conclusion with his character, although it was a little unsatisfying, a little underwhelming on that. I think he was supposed to be a bigger part of this movie. Donnie Wahlberg from New Kids on the Block. If you keep on wondering who this is that I'm showing, I'm sorry, maybe look it up, but if you do, you know. Boy Meets World fans, what's up? And one of my other expectations, it wasn't really a prediction, but was something that I was hoping for in Saw 4 was just the rest of the background on Jigsaw. They kept holding out all this information. I guess they wanted to just kind of drip that out over the course of a couple movies. And all the background stuff about Jigsaw was definitely one of the highlights of this movie. We definitely found out a lot more about Jigsaw, so that's awesome. And now that I bring up Jigsaw, that's going to go ahead and just segue into the main part of the review. So let's just go ahead and talk about Saw 4. Let's go in depth with it. Now, Saw 4 was released in 2007 and grossed $139 million on a $10 million budget. Saw 3 had also a $10 million budget, and what's interesting is Saw 4 was greenlit before Saw 3 was even released. They knew they had a massive cash cow on their hands, and I think at this point they knew they were going to release these fuckers every year because they were making insane amounts of money. Almost $170 million gross on Saw 3 on a $10 million budget. Brought back again to direct was Darren Lynn Bousman. And what's interesting about Darren Bousman is he had the opportunity to direct 2, 3, and 4, and pretty much dictated the visual style and aesthetic of the series from then on. That James Wan did start at the beginning, but as 2, 3, and 4 progressed, Darren Bousman's style has definitely evolved, kind of made it his own. It's interesting to see his directing style, aesthetic, and editing kind of lasted throughout this whole series. Now, unfortunately, this time around, Leigh Whannell did not write the script for Saw 4 as he did for 1, 2, and 3. Leigh Whannell has kind of been the heartbeat and the heart and soul of Saw 1, 2, and 3. Now, although Leigh Whannell and James Wan did executive produce Saw 4, I really think the writing talents of Leigh Whannell were sorely missed here. He has a knack for character development, and he really was the heart and soul of Saw 1, 2, and 3. These two writers had a lot on their plate. They had a lot to live up to, and I think they did their best. They did their best. We'll talk about that. Darren Bousman back to direct, a pair of new writers. They did the best they could with Saw 4, and they came up with something. Some unique transitions, some interesting plot details, and a lot of twists. So this writing duo, Darren Lynn Bousman and executive producers James Wan and Leigh Whannell, all coming together, they came up with Saw 4, and in my opinion, with mixed results is what we got. So let's go ahead and talk about what Saw 4 is all about. Despite Jigsaw's death, and in order to save the lives of his two colleagues, Lieutenant Rigg is forced to take part in a new game, which promises to test him to the limit. Now let's go ahead and start out for my positives and talk about some of the technical aspects of this movie. One thing to note that I've seen a lot of people talk about are the interesting take on the transitions in this film, the transitioning from scene to scene. There is some interesting transitions. I respect Darren Lynn Bousman for kind of taking those transitions to the next level. Even if they were a little cheesy at times, they seemed a little, I don't know, out of nowhere and a little unnecessary at times, but I respect him for trying. Some of them were kind of cool, and these were done practically from what I read. Any filmmaker that takes a little bit of a chance in the visuals is fine by me. That was a cool thing to see. Another thing I really liked was that really eerie opening scene, the autopsy scene with Jigsaw. That was a really ballsy way to open that movie. It really, really was. I love the way they sucked all the color out of the color grading and just made the blood just pop. So everything was white, but that bright red blood. It looked really, really cool. The dummy body that they used for Jigsaw looked incredibly realistic. I forgot to look up the effects house that did that, but they did a really, really good job with Jigsaw's likeness. So I honestly really did like that opening scene. Of course, you see him open the body and you see him pull out the wax-covered tape. Super unique. We'll talk a little bit more about the practical effects and the gore and stuff when I get to my gore score and my rating and score section of the review. But other than that, I don't have a lot of really super positive things. Nothing really stood out to me as far as like the cinematography or the filmmaking. Even the score and the soundtrack didn't stand out a whole lot to me. They were kind of just these pounding rhythms and things like that. Although I do like that classical that big thing they always end the movie on. I think it's pretty standard visual style, editing style that we've seen in the other films. But that's really all I got to say about my positive and the technical aspects of the movie.
That's all I have to say about that.
Let's go on to talk about the story and the performances. which sucked. Now, in my last review, I talked a lot about and praised Saw 3 for its big swings with the emotional aspects, the character stuff, Amanda, Jigsaw, Jeff, and Nurse Lynn, Detective Matthews and his son. That's what made Saw 3 work. The ending worked because of the suspense built with good writing and good character development. Now, Saw 4 attempts to give us that elevated character stuff that we saw in Saw 3. I give it credit for that, but it just did not resonate with me. I did not give a shit about anybody in this movie. That was my main struggle with Saw 4, to be honest with you. You mix poorly realized characters with a plot that's just complicated enough to be just a little more trouble than it's worth. And for me, I just found myself struggling to give a shit about anything that was happening. You know, in Saw 3, we had the culmination of Jigsaw and Amanda's complicated relationship that was nurtured over the course of 3 movies. The heavy stuff with Jeff and him facing his inner demons as he went face to face with all of the people that played a role in the tragic death of his son, and how that took a toll on him and his wife Lynn's relationship, ultimately leading to her infidelities. Hell, in just a short time in Saw 3, they even managed to give the audience reasons to sympathize with the people involved in the death of their son. They even gave emotional weight to these side characters that were ultimately put in the traps. So what Saw 4 does is it takes all those characters, all those really well-developed, fleshed out characters, and said, hey, these new characters that we're going to show you, they knew those guys. They knew them. They're co-workers. And that's it. So when we start following this Rig character who they want us to desperately care about, I was not interested. I didn't care. You know, in Saw 3, I didn't mind taking time away from the Jigsaw and Amanda stuff and spending a little time with the side characters. I didn't mind. In the 4th movie, the only thing that I gave a shit about at all was the backstory of Jigsaw and his wife and what happened to them. Anytime it went away from them, I just did not give a shit about anything that was happening on screen at all. I was not emotionally invested in any of these characters whatsoever. In this movie, you could really, really feel the absence of Leigh Whannell. Like I said, he was the heart and soul of those first 3 movies. He has a knack for character development, picking out the little emotional moments, little moments that make you even care about small characters. Now, aside from the character stuff and just the poorly developed characters, the dialogue itself was terrible. It was so cringy. The entire runtime of this movie just felt like a bad, subpar cable procedural. It was just bad, but with no tongue-in-cheek quality, like a CSI or something. I just kept thinking, shit, man, get David Caruso in here so he can put on his glasses and blast that Who song.
Was the mob sent to draw us to the crime scene?
We're sent to destroy it.
But no, we didn't get David Caruso or any interesting characters for that matter. We get 2 of the most punchable faces I've ever seen in my entire life. We get broke budget, always save Jason Lee, Jesus Christ, and especially this guy. It's like a doofy Jeremy Renner mixed with Ernest. Please tell me I'm not the only one that thought this was the most punchable face I've ever seen.
God damn it, I don't know what it is about your face, but I want to deliver one of these right in your suck hole.
Is there anything I can do to work on that?
No, not really. It's your face.
So we have Ernest Scared Stupid, and we have Always Save Jason Lee, and Jason Lee's unnecessary partner. No offense to that actress. I'm sure she's very nice, but she's given absolutely nothing to work with. The only reason she's there is to just pose some question that needs to be answered for the stupid plot to keep moving. Jason Lee would just be able to connect 50 impossible dots so that he could get the next puzzle piece to move the plot along, and we can see another one of those absurd transitions as we go to the next scene. So we have all that dumb, ridiculous Jason Lee Ernest shit going on, and then we have this Rig character. Rig. First of all, I gotta mention, did anybody else laugh their asses off when Riggs wakes up in that bathtub and does that baby T-Rex arm thing? I guess he's trying to naturally wake up like, oh, but it just... Also, Riggs is in his apartment, right? Does he not have a pair of fucking scissors in that place? All he needed was a pair of scissors to cut that chick's ponytail. If I'm wrong, if I'm missing something, please let me know. But he's here shooting this trap, shooting the gears, running all over the place trying to figure out what to do as this chick's fucking hair's getting ripped off her skull. And all he had to do was cut her ponytail off. What the fuck? So, another thing from the beginning of the movie, Art Blank, the lawyer character, when he's in the trap with the guy he's connected to the chain with, why the fuck did he wait till he was free and he was out of the trap to rip his lips apart? Why didn't he grab a pair of scissors? What does this movie have against scissors? Does nobody have any scissors in this movie? You can't cut the ponytail. He frees himself, and instead of going to find some scissors or a knife, he fucking rips his lips apart. Saw 4, what do you got against scissors, man? So for the rest of the movie, we're stuck with this boring-ass Riggs character who for some reason hates scissors, and we're forced to follow him from trap to trap as he makes his way through each one of his little games. But the thing is, they tried to mimic what they did in Saw 3 and have this character go from, you know, person to person, from trap to trap. But the problem is, in Saw 3, Jeff had a relationship to each of these characters. They were all involved in the killing of his son. None of the people in Saw 4 matter whatsoever. If they do get a background, they're given a quick 10-second Saw-style edit with flickers and flashes showing them, you know, whatever bullshit they did. This one, at least, they gave some of the victims a little bit more reason to be killed, like the pedophile, and what was the one chick was just like a prostitute or something. Like, I don't know. If these people are going to be killed off in these like horrifically brutal ways, they better be doing the most horrific, heinous shit to deserve it. Not being a prostitute or doing some drugs. Now, the pedophile guy, yeah, he deserved it, but his fucking traps sucked too. I'm gonna get into these shitty traps as we get on the movie. I'm getting fired up, guys. This movie fucking pissed me off. So we have Riggs' character going through all his plot trap bullshit that nobody cares about. Meanwhile, the movie progresses and we find out that Ernest P. Worrell, aka Detective Hoffman, aka Punchable Face, is set to become Jigsaw's successor in the climax of a pretty convoluted and dumb central story, which just honestly gives us more questions than answers, as is par for the course with these movies. It appeared to me in this installment of the series Saw 4, more than any of the other ones, that these are starting to slowly devolve into just a product, something made to create sequels, which I was just really not feeling. Maybe they'll find a way to keep it fresh in future movies. I really don't know. Due to scheduling conflicts, Donnie Wahlberg's character was really reduced to pretty much nothing, to petting rats and getting his head smashed Gallagher style, as he just dangles from a chain and goes, "Motherfucker, this motherfucker." I did dig that wide shot where it comes together and smashes his head. That was pretty cool. I guess this is a good enough time as any to lead to my Gore score, and let's talk about the overall rating, scoring, and get to my predictions for Saw 5. My rating system involves 3 categories and then an overall score. The 3 categories being technical, story and performances, and the Gore score. That all culminates to a rewatchability score, which is the overall score. So for tech, now if you love this movie, you're not going to like my scores. I'm honest. I can only be honest in these reviews. That's all I can do. This, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, I've never seen any of these movies. This is the first time I've watched all of these movies, with the exception of the first movie. So we're watching all these for the first time. I am, at least. So the technical score gets a 5. I had this at a 4 at first for the technical score, but due to him putting some effort in the transitions and trying to make the best of a shit script and everything like that, I gave it a 5. It probably deserves a 4. Okay, I don't know if that sounds douchey to say that, but I'm going to give it a 5. 5 for technical. Next up, story and performances. I think the whole review and my introduction to this review will tell you what I thought about the story and performances. It's getting a 3. A score of 3 out of 10. Gore score, a 3. This movie gave us nothing in the way of gore. The traps were incredibly boring and uninteresting. I didn't find myself being impressed by any of these traps at all. The hair one was kind of cool, and the digital blood. I hate digital blood, and digital blood was squirting all over the place. It was super lame. That pissed me off. Especially the one in the room where the guy's strapped to the bed and the things hit his eyes and just a bunch of digital cartoon blood came, and the whole entire room was red, so nothing had impact. Everything was blood red. Super lame. Hated it. Basically, the only shot that made this movie worth anything was the opening shot, which was pretty cool, and the head smash. But everything else sucked, and I gotta roll the originality of the traps in with this Gore score, and they just fucking sucked. So overall, this movie is getting a 4 out of 10, and honestly, I think that's pretty generous. I think that's generous. 4 out of 10. I don't have a lot of hopes for Saw 5 at all. Everything from the story, the gore, the traps, the technical stuff, everything about it was extremely lacking. A major dip in quality from number 3. And I think the reason I'm being so hard on 4 is because I liked 3 so much. 3 showed me that maybe the franchise does have some potential. I don't know, but then 4 really kind of tamed my expectations of what I might see in 5. So speaking of that, let's talk about my expectations for Saw 5. I don't have many. Okay, and there's it's hard to predict anything because the movie's just going to keep inventing things to move the plot along. So as far as predictions, I don't think we can predict too much more about Jigsaw. The lore has pretty much already been told, so at this point, they're just going to be making stuff up. The only thing I can hope for in Saw 5 is we get some emotional depth. Give me some characters that I care about. In Saw 5, I want to see characters that I give a shit about. I know we're going to get more info on Detective Hoffman. Maybe that'll be interesting. I don't know. Could be cool. It does seem like Amanda and Detective Hoffman had some sort of relationship as we find out that he was helping her set up the traps and stuff. So overall, I didn't give a shit about anything in this movie. There was 2 cool scenes, the beginning and the head smash. That was it. Hopefully we can get a little bit better movie out of 5. Guys, I'm sorry I shit on this movie. You know, if you've watched my channel for a long time, I'm a pretty positive guy. I don't normally shit on movies like this. I really don't. But I gotta be honest. I'm going to be honest about all these movies, so we'll see what happens in Saw 5. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this Saw series, on my Saw journey. We'll see you in episode 5 for Saw 5. Hopefully we get a little bit better of a movie. But guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Stay weird. Remember, always be yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them.